Alright, good afternoon, class. Today we're going to be taking some notes. So we're not going to be working in the module to start, but you guys are going to have a line paper out if you don't have it already. Put your name at the top right, and you're going to title it Adding Integers Without a Number Line. So practicing adding integers without a number line. Remember, integers are positive or negative whole numbers. So just what we've been working with the last couple days with adding positive negatives, but we're going to get to the point where we don't have to always use a number line anymore. Make the problems a lot easier. And what you will see is there's going to be an assignment on GoForm or in your Google Classroom that says the notes for today, or adding integers without a number line notes. So that's this. What you guys got to make sure you do is copy down everything I'm writing down, and you're going to take a picture of it, and you're going to submit it for points. This weekend, I'm going to be grading all your assignments, so whatever you got missing, there's like 3 or 4 things that you guys should have done. You haven't done them all already, so make sure you guys do that. Be grading them this weekend, and then on Aries, you'll see your updated grades. So if you got a bunch of missing assignments and still haven't done it yet, and then I grade it, that means on Aries, you're probably going to have a low grade, right? Like an F. Hopefully not, though. Hopefully a lot of you guys got all of their assignments in and you get some A's and B's. Alright, so on to the lesson today, though. So it says adding integers without a number line, but what we're going to do is we're going to start by using a number line. So hopefully you guys wrote all this down. If you haven't, you can pause the video for a second. But for the next part, if you have a ruler, you can take that out. It's not mandatory, though. It might make your notes look a little nicer. But if it takes up too much time, don't worry about it. You're going to draw 2 number lines side by side. And underneath the left one, you're going to do -4 plus -2. And on the right, you're going to do 1 plus 4. On the left number line, let's start from -6. We're not going to be able, we're only going to go up to +2 on the right, or on the left number line. So just make sure you have those numbers on there. Alright, same thing on the number line on the right. That's it. On the number line on the right, you go from -2 all the way to +6. So give you guys a few seconds to copy all that down. And make sure you have every single number on there. Again, we could always pause the video if taking a little bit of time to write that down. Actually, for now, though, I want you guys to do this. You guys should know how to do this by now. I think from what I'm hearing, it does seem like you guys know how to do it. So draw the arrows to represent -4 plus -2. Remember, circle your answer also. Write down what the answer is. Do the same thing from the left one and the right one. We'll pause the video for 1.5 to 2 minutes maybe. Give you guys some time to do that. Alright, so we can go over this real quick. And I'm going to do something a little bit different with negative numbers. I'm going to represent it with a red arrow. And then positive numbers, I'm going to represent it with a blue arrow. Of course, you guys don't have to do that on yours. But it'll make the visual look, might make it a little more helpful to understand. So first number is -4. Remember, we start at 0. We go back 4 steps. You're going to label it that number. We all start at 0, right? And then the second number is -2, so that means we start wherever the arrow just ended. It ended at -4, right? So we're going to put an arrow from here. We go back 2 spaces more. where do we end up? Our answer is -6, right? Alright, and then the one on the right, then I start at 0, I go over 1, put a 1 there to represent that. Then the next number is 4, so that means I gotta go over 4 spaces. If I go over four spaces, we go 1, 2, 3, 4. We end up at 5, right? Okay, so I want us to kind of look at these two different problems and notice if we see a pattern. I forgot to write the answer for the second one is 5. So I guess looking at these two problems, I want you guys to think about how are they different, besides for like it's different numbers, right? You notice the problem on the left, this one over here, both numbers we're adding are what? They're both negative numbers, right? And since we're adding two negative numbers, where do negative numbers take you? They take you to the, hold on, sorry. Negative numbers take you to the left, right? Like we see here, and we see here. So no matter what, if I'm adding two negative numbers, I'm going to go to the left and then further to the left. So what type of numbers are on the left side? They're negative numbers, right? So what I want you guys to know is whenever we add two negative numbers, it's just going to make a bigger negative number. Because on the number line, you go back for a negative number, and you go back again for a negative number. That means you're going to make a bigger negative number. And the same thing for when you add two positives, except here when you add a positive, you go to the what direction? It goes to the right, right? And you add another positive, you go further to the right. So no matter what, it's going to be positive. Okay, so that's kind of common sense, right? You add two positive numbers, makes a bigger positive. Add two negative numbers, makes a bigger negative. But how do we get these numbers without maybe using the number line? So how can we figure out what number the answer will be without using the number line? And we could, feel free here, we could pause the video if anybody wants to share their answer or their idea on that. Why is it that or how do we get the number, I guess? So here, what you notice, before I actually talk about the arrow, or before I talk about the answer, let's say I want to represent -6 using one arrow, right? How would I show -6? I'm use purple for this. So everybody agree that's -6, right? That's this right here. So -6 is our answer, right? What do you notice about the answer compared to the two small numbers or the two small arrows? What happens if you put those two red arrows, put them together? Let's see. If I put those two red arrows together, notice that. Isn't it the same as that purple arrow? It's like the two negative arrows combine to make a bigger arrow, right? So here, these two negative arrows combine to make a bigger negative arrow. So kind of what you're basically doing here, you could just do 4 plus 2 is 6, right? But it's not 4 plus 2, it's -4 plus -2. So you know it has to be -6. I know I'm drawing a bunch of different little arrows like that. You guys don't have to worry about those as long as you got what I have right here. Okay, so to sum up, we know our answer here is -6 because you could just do 4 plus 2, but since they're both negative, it makes a bigger negative number. So that's why it's -6. And then on the right side, let's see if we can do the same thing. I'm going to draw an arrow to represent 5. Go from 0 to 5, right? Once again, notice the two little arrows. If I put the two little arrows together, you could combine it to make the big arrow right here. Here, let me do that one time. Right? See those two little arrows combine to make the big arrow. So right here, 1 plus 4 is just simply 5. Right? That one's kind of, you guys know how to do that from many years ago. All right, so let's just write a quick summary on how do we add two numbers of the same sign. You notice right here, they're both negative or they're both positive. So that's what we're talking about right now. So to add two numbers of the, okay, you guys should be writing this down right now. So to add two numbers of the same sign, simply add the numbers, but make sure to keep the sign. So to add two numbers of the same sign, simply add the numbers, but make sure to keep, keyword is keep, or I guess key part there, keep the sign. So a little quick recap. Right here, -4, -2, just do 4 plus 2 is 6, but they're both negative, so that makes -6. On the right side, 1 plus 4, just simply 5, right? All right, so with that information, we're going to do a little bit of practice. Oops, this is not part of it. A little bit of practice. So underneath where you just wrote, you're going to write practice. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to fix some of these numbers, make it a little bit neater. You guys already know my handwriting is not the best. Alright, so just quickly reading it off. First one is -4 plus -2. Then we got 5 plus 9, -6 plus -3, -1 plus -11, 3 plus 5 plus 7, -20 plus -15. Before we even write the answer, so we're going to write the answer in a second. Some of you guys probably want to jump ahead and get the answer, but I don't want you guys to do that yet. All I want you guys to do, before you put the answer in the box, you're going to write down, you're either going to put a plus, or plus for positive, and or a minus, actually, or a minus for negative. So you're going to write down, is the answer going to be positive or negative? So for all these, this is an example, you're not going to write this, but your paper should look something like that, depending on if you think the answer will be positive or negative when you add it. So here we'll go through this one. The first one, you know the answer should be negative because you're adding two negative numbers. It makes it bigger negative. Second one, adding two positive numbers should be positive. Third one, adding two negative numbers, again, should be negative, right? Same thing for the next one. Adding two negative numbers makes a bigger negative number. Then that one should be positive. And that last one, again, they're both negative. And real quick, this one should be positive because they're all positive. If you think about the number line, you're just going to keep going further and further to the right. Alright, so then, quickly, I'm going to give you guys about, let's see, 30 seconds if you have not gotten it already. Try to put down the answers for each of these. Pause that video real quick. Alright, so hopefully you guys all got it. For the first one, well, I think we kind of actually just did this one, but 4 plus 2 is 6, right? But they're both negative, so you know the answer should be -6. Second one, 5 plus 9, 14. Third one, -6 plus -3. Remember, if they're the same sign right here, I could do 6 plus 3 is 9, but they're both negative, so you gotta put that negative. Then 1 plus 11 is 12, but they're both negative, so you gotta put a negative. Number 5, they're all positive, so you know you should get a positive number. Just do 3 plus 5 is 8, plus 7 is 15. Last one, negative 20 plus negative 15. Just do 20 plus 15 is 35, but do not forget to put the negative in front, since they're both negative. Alright, so what we just practiced is, I'm throwing 2 more problems at you guys. 7 and 8. Slightly bigger numbers. Do the same thing. I give you guys a minute to a minute and a half. Write down the sign. What the answer will be first. If the answer will be positive or negative, and then get the actual answer or the sum. Alright, so hopefully you guys got that. Number 7, 18, negative 18 plus negative 64. Just do here, 18. For these ones, you're trying to avoid using a calculator. So just do 18 plus 64, right? Remember how you could, in elementary, you guys add it like that? Do 8 plus 4 is 12. Put a 2 there, put a 1 on top. 6 plus 1 is 7, plus another 1 that we carried over. 8, 82. But don't forget, they're both negative, right? You're going back to the negative side, but twice. So that means you know the answer should be a negative. Same thing for the last one. You know the answer should be negative. Right here, I can just do 205, just 1 plus 123. And we get 328. Once again, don't forget that negative. If you somehow just put 328 on your test or a quiz, that will be considered wrong. Alright, so hopefully you guys are good with adding those type of numbers. So what we dealt with so far was adding numbers of, they're both the same sign, right? Like looking at all these examples, they're both either both positive or both negative. Next up, we're going to deal with what happens if one's positive and one's negative. So once again, we're going to start by drawing 2 number lines to kind of show how to do this. The first one would be negative 4 plus 2. And the second one would be negative 3 plus 6. On the left side, start from negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2. On the right one, we'll go negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So here, do the same thing you guys did earlier. I'll give you guys a minute or two to draw the arrows to represent what the answer is. So pause that video real quick for everyone to do that. Alright, so let's see. First one, you start at 0, right? You go back 4. And we draw a red arrow for that. Then the second number is positive 2. That means I'm going to go to the right by 2. And what's our answer here? Our answer is negative 2. And then the second one, I go back 3. Especially that arrow should be red since it's negative. And then the second number 6, that means I go 6 to the right. Where are we going to end up? We go 6 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so we end up at 3. Okay, so Now, looking at these problems, I want you guys to have to think about what do both these problems have in common, and what do they have that are not in common. So the problem on the left, the answer is negative, right? And the problem on the right, the answer is positive. And that's the big question. How come the one on the left is negative, but the one on the right is positive? If anybody wants to share why. Actually, if possible, I'm going to have you guys try to share with your neighbor. Tell them, why do you think the answer to the problem on the left is negative and the one on the right is positive? We can pause that video real quick. Alright, so let's see. Hopefully some of you guys shared some good answers. So looking at this. So the reason the answer on the left is negative, because if you look at the two arrows, which arrow is bigger? Or which arrow is longer? The red arrow, right? While the blue arrow is shorter. That means the red arrow takes you further to the negative, while the red arrow will take you back just a little bit, but not enough to get you back to the positive. So the reason the answer here is negative is because if you look at the two numbers, not even look at the arrows, look at the two numbers. You just ignore the sign for a little bit. Which number is bigger, the negative number or the positive number? Just ignoring the sign for now. The negative number is bigger, right? That's why the answer is negative. But then if you look at the problem on the right, you got, looking at the two signs, you got the negative arrow right there, but then you got that positive arrow that's a lot bigger. Here, the negative arrow takes you back to the left, right? But the positive arrow is so big, it takes you further to the right. You're back in the positive side. So the reason the answer for this one's positive is because if you look at two numbers, the positive one, again, you're ignoring the sign for a little bit, the positive number is bigger than the negative number. That's why the answer is positive, right? Okay, so now we know when the answer will be positive or negative, but how do we get the actual answer? How do I get the number here? What you could do is, again, look at the two numbers. Look at the bigger one. Again, you're ignoring the sign for now. If you look at the bigger one, and you do the bigger one, take away the smaller one. So right here you're doing 4, take away 2 is 2, right? But since the bigger one was negative, the answer has to be negative. That's what we got there. And then for the second one, well, again, so 4 take away 2 is 2, but since the negative was bigger, that's why it's negative 2. And then the one next to it, we got the bigger one, 6, right? So you do 6, you take away 3. 6 take away 3 is 3. But since the positive is bigger, the answer is going to be a positive 3. And the reason we're kind of taking away here, if you remember earlier, if I were doing -2 plus -4, you guys don't have to write this part down, just quickly follow along. Both arrows were going the same direction, right? So they're like kind of combining and working together. Up here in these two examples, you got two arrows going in different directions, and they're kind of like pulling against each other. So the bigger arrow will win, and it take away from the little arrow. So like 6 take away 3 is 3, and then 4 take away 2 is 2. But since that 4 was negative, and there's the bigger one, the answer is negative. So let's kind of summarize that with a sentence that we can refer to. So when adding numbers of different signs, do the bigger number minus the smaller number. And don't forget that part important. And keep the sign the bigger number. So when adding numbers of different signs, you do the bigger one, you gotta figure out which one's the bigger one, minus the smaller one. You kind of ignore the signs while you're doing that, but then keep the signs bigger number. So we'll do some examples together. I'll give you guys a few seconds to write that down. And we are turning this in as an assignment grade. You get an assignment, or you get a grade for it, like a regular assignment. Alright, so let's see. So you got practice. Alright, so 6 problems. So I'll do one together. I'll show you guys what I want you guys to do, like the steps to take for it. So each of these problems, I want you to circle the greater number, ignoring the signs, because I know all positive numbers are greater than negative numbers, right? But ignoring the sign, just which one's bigger. So look at the first one. Just look at the 1 and the 2. Which one's bigger? The 2, right? So I'm gonna circle that. So here you know your answer is gonna be positive. And there, you're just going to do the bigger one, take away the smaller one. Since they're different signs. You do 2, take away 1 is 1. And it's going to be positive 1 because the bigger one was positive. We'll do one more together. Then I'll have you guys do the last 4 on your own. 5 plus negative 9. That's a 9. So here, once again, I'm going to circle this one because it's the bigger one. It's the arrow for that one would be bigger. I guess that's another way to think of it. Which arrow would be bigger? The negative arrow would be bigger, right? So you know your answer is going to be negative. But you're doing the bigger one, which is 9. Take away the smaller one. 9 take away 5 is 4. And it's negative because the negative one was bigger. So we can pause that video real quick depending on how much time we got. If we're running out of time, we could just go through the rest of these. Alright, so third one, once again, this one I'm going to circle the first one, right? Because that arrow would be bigger. You do 6 take away 3 is 3. But since the bigger one was negative, you put the negative there. Number 4, same thing. I'm going to circle the bigger one. You do the bigger one, take away the smaller one. 11 take away 1 is 10. But the bigger one is negative, so it's negative 10. And number 5, just like the last couple, I'm going to circle the negative one because it's bigger, right? I'm going to subtract it. 10 take away 7 is 3. Don't forget to put a negative because the negative one is bigger. Alright, now we got something a little bit different. This time, the bigger one is positive, right? So you're going to do 65. You're going to do the bigger one. Take away the smaller one. 65 take away 12. Then you get 53. Is it going to be negative 53 or positive 53? It's going to be positive, right? Because the bigger one was positive. You don't have to circle the big one. I think it might just kind of be helpful sometimes to help you remember if the answer is going to be positive or negative. Alright, so that's going to be it. Make sure you take a picture of these notes and submit it. And that'll be it. Alright. Good job, everyone.